What's happening, everybody? Happy NFL Sunday. We have made it. I need to mute my Discord so that those pings don't start bothering me or don't start distracting me. Hope everybody's ready. Hope everybody's excited. I know I am. Y'all have me for an hour today. Just if you need to finalize anything for your lineup ahead of the start of the Sunday slate. I almost said the start of week one, but week one obviously already started. But the Sunday slate, the big the big slate of games, the large talent or the pool of players to choose from for your starting lineup. If you need any last minute thoughts, we're here to take care of that. What's going on, Nemo? Good to see you. Yep. Happy fantasy season. Happy football season. Excited for the start of it. The first full slate of the season. Man, there's nothing like that. There's nothing like that rush for the first wave of games to kick off week one. So it's going to be very exciting. It's going to be Bloody Marys on deck, and then we'll see where the day takes us from that point forward. Just a couple of news and notes here. It's never football without something insane happening, right? So this news just came down. Dolphins wide receiver Tyreek Hill was detained by police on his way to the game today for some type of moving violation. He was officially arrested. According to his agent, who I believe is Drew Rosenhaus, Tyreek is expected to play today. So they're expected to sort this legal process out within the next couple of hours. And they literally have less than 2 hours to make that happen because that's when their game kicks off against the Jacksonville Jaguars. So, if you have Tyreek Hill, obviously this is like a good God type of moment. Like, of course, this is how the season starts because you probably spent a top 3 or 4 pick on him in your draft. It sounds like you can comfortably leave him in your starting lineup. Hopefully this is not a distraction, for this game, for Tyreek Hill, for the Dolphins in general. But Tyreek Hill, that's the big news of the morning thus far. Detained by police entering the stadium for some type of moving violation. It sounds like he's going to play, so I don't think you have any concerns there as far as your first overall pick in redraft leagues this year. And Nemo, Fortune, Rojo, good to see all of you guys. Hope y'all are excited. Hope y'all are ready. I know you are. Football's back, baby. Football's back. And it's never without its excitement. Tyreek Hill detained by police on his way to the stadium. But his availability at this particular moment in time is not in question. So if you have him, you're good to go. Ezekiel Elliott and Rico Dowdle will split carries in the backfield today. Dalvin Cook will not play. That makes sense since he only just got there. In deeper leagues, you may be considering one of these guys. In shallower 10 and 12 team leagues, both of them are comfortably on your bench until we see this actually play out in game. So Ezekiel Elliott, Rico Dowdle, expected to split work today. I cannot, in good faith, advise on starting either one of those guys until we actually see how that situation plays out. What's going on, Crumbly Heads? Good to see you, bro. My charger fell. I had to grab that. Those are the big updates. I mean, it's a relatively clean bill of health at this point for anybody who is on the injury report and not already ruled out, if that makes sense. Went over this yesterday. Christian McCaffrey expected to be perfectly fine for Monday night against the Jets. DeAndre Hopkins is expected to play today against Chicago. Keenan Allen is expected to play today in that same game against the Titans. What remains outstanding is the availability of Jamar Chase. The latest is that a contract is not expected to get finalized or sorted out before kickoff. I know it's insane, and generally speaking, you just have to fire up your best guys, your top picks, and just hope for the best. This does not feel like one of those scenarios. If you have Jamar Chase, you have to seriously consider not playing him today. Obviously, if he's just ruled out outright, that makes things easier. But even if he's active for this game, you're relying on like a smattering of plays, maybe, for him to come through for your fantasy team. It's incredibly volatile, Jamar Chase is today. He has declared that he's going to be pretty much in and out of the lineup if he even gives it a go. His availability is going to be limited. I don't have a whole lot of confidence in Jamar Chase today. The situation is not great. The vibes are not great. Jamar Chase is obviously a top 5 receiver in the NFL, but with all of the circumstances going on with him and around him, I think you bench him today. Ideally, this contract situation gets put behind us sooner than later, and the Bengals pay him because it sounds like he's willing to play this game, even though he still has 2 years left on his contract. Hopefully, this is water under the bridge by next week. But for week 1, as of right now, I do not think you can start Jamar Chase. I do not think you can do that. Rojo, you had Mark Andrews last minute. Sorry, dude. Hopefully that was the worst of Mark Andrews. Again, he is coming off a weird offseason. He just recently, a couple weeks ago, was in a car accident. So, he was out there, to his credit. He was out there and he was running routes. I think he ran the same amount of routes as Likely did, and he was drawing a little extra attention from the Chiefs defense. So he should have his weeks, but man, that was a rough start to the season for Mark Andrews. But it's only week 1. Win or lose, this is when you have the most this is when we start finally getting information as far as how to proceed and how to move forward for the rest of the season. Fortune's got a question. Again, if you are a member, you will get your questions prioritized. I will jump out of order for member questions. If you are feeling generous enough to send a super, those will jump the line as well, and then I will get to everybody else. Would I start JMO or would I start Yosivash? Andre Yosivash. I wish his name was Yoshi, but it's Yosi. Nevertheless. This is a tough spot. JMO is a dart throw, an unproven dart throw that we have high hopes for. The expectations are there for a year 3 breakout. His first week 1 of his career. Remember, he rookie season missed a lot of time recovering from the ACL, and then last year he was suspended for the first 4 games. So this is his first week 1, and the expectations are high for Jameson Williams. Expectations are that he will become a regular contributor as a starter for this offense behind Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sam Laporta. But that's the key detail here. He's certainly behind Amon-Ra St. Brown in the pecking order, and in all likelihood, he's behind Sam Laporta as well. He could even be behind Jahmyr Gibbs as far as target share any given week. So we're hoping he comes through as his team's, option 3 or 4, even though he is a big play waiting to happen. With Yosivash, it's probably fair to say that there's a talent level downgrade going from Yosi. I really want to call him Yoshi. But it's not how to pronounce his name. Yosivash, there's a talent dip from him to Jameson Williams. But the opportunity is huge, wide open for him, for any of these Bengals receivers, to be honest. By all indication, Yosi won the wide receiver 3 battle pretty much outright in Bengals camp this year. So he probably had a leg up on playing time, even with a healthy Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Whether that translates to legitimate statistical production is another story. Um, but he figured to be a regular in this offense anyway, as the team's wide receiver 3. Now he's potentially the team's wide receiver 1 today against the Patriots. Ultimately, I think because it's week 1, Fortune, and again, I've been kind of leaning this way for everybody. So Rojo, maybe don't feel too bad about swapping in Andrews for Ferguson at the last second. We have so little to go off of for week 1 that it's just kind of like a default is to start the dudes that you drafted first, right? You drafted Mark Andrews ahead of Jake Ferguson. You drafted Jamison Williams. You probably picked up Andre Yosivach because of the opportunity in front of him for just at least this week. With so little to go off of going into week 1, I'm inclined to just start the dudes I invested in at a heavier price than the alternative. So if you drafted JMO, but you only just picked up Yosivach, then maybe just start JMO for just week 1, who should be a starter in all situations for the Lions, whereas Yosivach is in an expanded role out of necessity. That could mean he comes through on volume, but then the ceiling play would be going for the bomb, going for the big play, which is what JMO can give you. I am inclined to lean, at least for week 1, the guys you actually invested in as the foundation of your team. JMO is more for at least week 1. He is closer to being the foundation of your team or a part of the foundation of your team over Yosivach. So for at least week 1, I would probably just go for the upside, go for the big play, and play JMO. And again, yep, the news just is coming down and it's being confirmed. Tyreek Hill will play today. No concerns there. Zamir White, Jerome Ford, or Zach Moss for your RB2. Zamir has the Chargers. Jerome Ford has the backfield to himself against the Cowboys. Zach Moss will split the work with Chase Brown. And you figure both running backs for the Bengals are a little more involved today out of necessity given the Bengals wide receiver situation. So Moss and Chase Brown both get a slight bump. Between the 3 of these guys, I'm inclined to say Ford. I've been a big proponent of just drafting Jerome Ford in general this year because I genuinely am not sure that Nick Chubb gives us anything this year. I hope he does. I hope he bounces back. I hope he, fully recovers from the brutal injury that he suffered last year and is able to return to the Nick Chubb of old. That's a hope. That's not a projection. I don't have a whole lot of belief that can happen. I want to believe that because Nick Chubb is awesome and when healthy, one of, if not the best pure runners of the football in the NFL today, currently. But that was a really bad injury that he suffered. He's on the PUP list. He's going to miss the first 4 weeks. This is Jerome Ford's backfield. Pierre Strong and Donta Foreman figure to mix in, but Ford is the starter. And he played pretty well last year. I think the Browns, at least right now going into week 1, are probably a slightly better offense on paper than the Raiders. So I'll take Ford. Their offensive line is solid. They're at home. And he has the backfield to himself. I like Moss. I think Moss gets a slight uptick in usage today, as does Chase Brown. But because they're splitting the work, I'm more inclined to go with the guy who I think will lead his backfield, and that's Ford. Zamir White should also lead his backfield. I guess I just, as of right now, trust the Browns offense a little bit more than the Raiders offense. A little bit, not a lot. So I'll say Ford. And I'd like to see a little bit more from Zamir White. He looked decent when he got his opportunity last year, but it wasn't spectacular. It was decent. It wasn't great. So I want to wait on Zamir White for a week. I'll say Ford between those options. I'm excited to see what the Seattle offense looks like today. I'll be honest, I'm excited to see what that Seattle defense looks like today. Mike McDonald, he's the former defensive coordinator of the Baltimore Ravens. He's their head coach now. I think that defense is going to be sneaky good this year. I picked them up and I have them. I'm streaming them today at home against the Denver Broncos. Bo Nix making his first career start on the road up in Seattle. Let's see how he does. I think that Seattle defense is a good stream today, and I am streaming them everywhere. I think that I'm curious to see about that defense. Let's see. Start Caleb or Dak? You have CeeDee Lamb. Oh, you also have DJ Moore. So you have theoretical stacks with both of these guys. In that case, I would say Caleb Williams. He's the more definitive start, in my opinion, today anyway. Dak is going on the road against a tough Browns defense. A lot of new pieces on the offensive line. CeeDee Lamb's situation only just got resolved. And the rest of the ancillary pieces in that offense, Brandon Cooks is getting older. And after that, it's a lot of, and Zeke is already old, based on his workload. How much does he have left in the tank? And then guys like Rico Dowdle and Jalen Tolbert are largely unproven, as is their current offensive line. I would say Caleb. I would say Caleb Williams in a matchup that is not as – the Titans have been pretty good on defense the past couple of years, but that matchup doesn't scare me as much as Dak going on the road having to play Cleveland, whereas Caleb is at home in his first career start. Caleb's receivers, top to bottom, are better. I would start Caleb Williams over Dak Prescott today. Caleb's at home. Dak's on the road in a tough matchup. I would say Caleb. Joe Burrow, cool name. I will get to your question in a second, but I just saw Greg pop in. What's going on, Greg? Again, members will get priority. Their questions answered in priority order. That is a perk of being a member of the channel. Again, if you're feeling generous enough to send a super, that would also jump the line. You don't have to. But I will get to everybody else's questions. I just got to get to my members first. What's going on, Greg? You have Jordan Love. Yeah, so that hurts. We're probably gonna not have him for like a month. Yes, the Bengals, even with the Bengals wide receiver situation, leaving their offense feeling a little lackluster, I still like the Bengals defense as a stream on at home against New England. It's going to be Jacoby Brissett, Ramondre Stevenson, Demario Douglas. We'll see what Jalen Polk can do in his first game. I think Hunter Henry has been dealing with an injury. He should play, but he's been dealing with an injury for the past couple of weeks. I would say yes. Pittsburgh's on the road against what we expect to be a better Atlanta Falcons offense. Cincinnati's at home against a largely unproven Patriots offense. Cincinnati is a very good stream this week for me, as is Seattle. But if Seattle is not available and Cincinnati is, I would say go with Cincinnati. I would say go with Cincinnati. I like their chances today against New England. It's a favorable matchup for them. As far as Aaron Jones versus Pittman, that is like a true toss-up. Um, I do think Aaron Jones is going to get a lot of work in this offense, with Sam Darnold being the starter for the entire season. There's nothing super scary about the matchup against the Giants, but he is on the road. Pittman, I believe the Colts are the home team today against the Houston Texans. They are. The Colts are the home team. So Pittman's at home and the clear top guy. I think I slightly lean Pittman. Even in half PPR. He's at home, catching passes from Anthony Richardson. Josh Downs is out. I like Aaron Jones. I like him a lot, but new situation. Let's see how that plays out. Probably not going to be as good of an offense as Indianapolis. Yeah, I think I like Pittman over Aaron Jones slightly. It's real close, but I think I like Pittman slightly over Aaron Jones. Top receiver on what should be a better offense than the Vikings offense. Seattle is available. I'm telling you, man, I think the Seahawks defense is worth a stream today. I really do. They are at home against Bo Nix in his first NFL start. A Broncos offense overall that is very much like we'll see. You know, after Cortland Sutton, there's a lot of question marks at receiver for the Broncos. Javonte Williams, Jaleel McLaughlin make up for an interesting backfield. But how will they do on the road in a tough environment in Seattle? They probably, I think this defense is going to be revamped under Mike McDonald, the Ravens, the previous Ravens defensive coordinator. I think Seattle is a rock solid stream today for your defense. I really do. The Bengals should be pretty good against New England if you want to stick with them, Greg. But I like Seattle as well. Either one, I think, can do well. I guess New England's pieces are a little worse top to bottom than Seattle's. So if you want to go stick with Cincinnati, then just stick with Cincinnati. But I like Seattle. I'm streaming Seattle everywhere. So I am living and dying by my own word. I am streaming Seattle everywhere in every league that I can. That's just me. That's just me. And Ford or Ridley in standard scoring. Again, one more time, I see some questions in the chat. I will get to them, but members do get first priority. That is a perk of being a member of the channel, so their questions will get answered first. But I see other questions. I will get to them. Just ask for a little bit of patience. Appreciate that in advance. Ford or Ridley in standard scoring. The standard scoring leads me to want to just go with Ford. Just go with the running back. I do think Ridley is in a good spot today. And I think he was a great value in drafts this year. I do. But in standard scoring, the backfield to himself, playing at home, I think I lean Ford. Crumply heads. I think I lean Jerome Ford. With no bonus for catches, Ridley should be in a good spot to deliver today. But Ford is going to get all the volume in that backfield. If DeAndre Hopkins were out for Tennessee, I might be singing a different tune. Ridley should be the team's wide receiver one, but DeAndre Hopkins, even in his advanced age, last year still commanded a lot of targets. Now, obviously, Ridley poses a big talent upgrade from everything else they had last year, but we still need to see how that pecking order shakes out. It should be Calvin Ridley, but I know Jerome Ford is leading the Browns' backfield. And in standard scoring, I'm inclined to go with the running back anyway, so I'll say Ford. Wow, last minute, just before kickoff. Well, the Cowboys play at 4:25 today, but Dak Prescott becomes the highest paid player in NFL history. 4 years, $240 million contract extension. Wow, holy hell. Dak gets the bag. Dak gets paid. I mean, they needed to do this. The Dallas Cowboys needed to get that done. Needed to make that happen. Dang. Jamar Chase is over here saying, like, see, you can get 11th hour deals done. He's over here thinking, where's my money? So I would not, I do not feel good about Jamar Chase today. I'll tell you that. And the Steelers plan to start Justin Fields against the Falcons today. I guess you can still fire up George Pickens in half PPR and full PPR, but we're downgrading him some on the road. Going to see AJ Terrell. So that's a tougher matchup as it is. I like George Pickens a lot this year, but these particular circumstances, I like him a little less. But as a wide receiver 3, you could do worse. Okay, I think I got the member questions, so I'm going to jump back up. Flex PPR. Do you start Deontay Johnson, Josh Palmer, Chuba Hubbard, or Yossi? I assume this is only a start one for the flex. I assume this is a start one. Deontay? Deontay should command a ton of opportunities. He will see Marshawn Lattimore. He will have to go up against Marshawn Lattimore, so that is a tough matchup. I like Deontay a lot from a PPR perspective week to week, but this is a tough matchup. He will see Marshawn Lattimore. So that's not ideal. Palmer, nothing super scary about the Raiders defense outside of Crosby. The question is how everyone's expecting the Chargers offense to be a pretty conservative one and a run heavy one this year. So, how does that shake out? Chuba in that same game that Deontay is in against the Saints. Nothing super scary about that matchup. He will get all of the opportunities with Jonathan Brooks on the PUP list and Miles Sanders just not being that good. And then Yossi is obviously a flyer, a streamer option with an expanded opportunity today. I would say it's between Deontay Johnson and Josh Palmer. I would say your floor play is Deontay, but if you think you need some upside, maybe that's Palmer. I don't know that Deontay is going to make a big play today, having to deal with coverage from Marshawn Lattimore, but I do think he can come through with some volume. He should command a ton of targets from Bryce Young as the team's wide receiver 1. So in PPR, that makes him a little bit more valuable. I think I slightly lean Deontay Johnson, even in the tougher matchup against Lattimore. They are at home, so that helps. Palmer would be an upside play if you think you need it. If you're looking at your matchup and saying to yourself, I'm an underdog and I need to swing for the fences, then maybe consider the big play that is Palmer. I would say Palmer is your ceiling, Deontay is your floor, but Deontay is a little tougher to trust going up against Lattimore. But in full PPR, he should be okay. He should be all right. Let's see. Watson or Geno? Watson is at home against the Dallas Cowboys. Geno is at home against the Denver Broncos. Let's see. Watson is tough to trust just because what do we have to go off of outside of, a lot of lackluster performances last year prior to the season-ending injury. Geno is decent, up and down. But at home, probably with a deeper complement of weapons to throw the ball to. Watson has Amari Cooper, who is a stud, but after that, it's Jerry Jeudy and Elijah Moore, obviously David Njoku at tight end. But the wide receivers after Amari Cooper are pretty lackluster for Cleveland, whereas Geno gets to throw the ball to DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and Jackson Smith-Njigba. I'll give the slight nod to Geno. Both players are at home. Watson also has to deal with Micah Parsons on the other side. Denver does not have a player of Micah Parsons' caliber on their line. They do have Patrick Surtain, who they just made, I believe, the highest paid cornerback in NFL history, deservedly so. So they do have Patrick Surtain. So that is a little bit of a tougher matchup that Metcalf is probably going to be the one that draws that assignment and has to deal with. But they don't have a dominant edge rusher like the Cowboys do, the Broncos. And Seattle does have a deeper collection of talent at receiver than the Browns do, so I'll give the slight nod to Geno. Javonte Williams or Chris Godwin in half PPR. Again, Godwin at home against Washington. Nothing super scary about that matchup. Javonte on the road against Seattle. I'm telling you, I think Seattle's defense is sneaky right now. I think they're going to have a much improved season under new head coach Mike Macdonald. I want to believe in Javonte. He's a full year now removed from all of the rehab that he was doing last offseason from the ACL injury. He should be 100% now. I know he played last year, but return to play doesn't mean return to performance. This would be the year where we could conceivably look at Javonte and say, we expect a return to performance. We expect him to be better. But I do think it is a tougher matchup today. I'm very intrigued by Chris Godwin today. He's back playing his natural role. He's back playing the slot in Liam Cohn's offense, who comes over from the Rams, and who said in the offseason when he was hired that he envisioned Chris Godwin playing the quote-unquote Cooper Kupp role in his offense. Now, I'm not expecting Chris Godwin to have an historical season, but he's back playing his natural position after playing on the outside a lot last year. He thrived in the slot previously, and now he's back there pretty much full time in a beatable matchup at home against Washington. I think I like Godwin in half PPR. If it was standard scoring, I would probably say Javonte. I also want to see how that backfield shakes out. How much does Jaleel McLaughlin get involved? I think I say Godwin slightly. It's close. But in half PPR, I would say Godwin. They're neck and neck. Let's see. Do you risk it and sit Burrow in favor of Justin Fields or Caleb Williams? I think at this point, Wilson is officially out. We already talked about Dak becoming the highest paid player. As far as Burrow, in one quarterback formats, he is tough to trust today. He is very difficult to trust today. Has there been any update on Jamar Chase? Jamar Chase is active. T. Higgins is not. Jamar Chase will officially be active despite being unable to reach a contract extension prior to kickoff. This is such a dicey situation with Jamar Chase. I do not have a lot of confidence in him today, but he is active. You play Burrow if you feel like you can just go with your safest option. I would say Caleb Williams is the risk reward. Caleb, I would say, has more upside than Joe Burrow today because he has his full complement of weapons available to him. And conceivably, Caleb Williams does offer a little bit of rushing upside. Burrow can run. We don't necessarily expect it from him game to game, though. I think it's fair to say that we expect a slightly higher rushing floor from Caleb Williams. I would say Caleb is the upside play if you think you need it. Burrow is risky, but he's a little safer if Jamar Chase is active. I don't know how much confidence we can conceivably have in Jamar Chase. But if he's out there, then I feel a little bit better about Joe Burrow's prospects, even if Chase is playing in like a limited capacity, which he alluded to earlier this week. I would say Burrow is your safety net, your safe-ish play. He's obviously the more proven quarterback, and as of right now, the better player. Caleb is the upside play if you think you need upside. If you're looking at your opponent, if you're considering yourself an underdog, you need to swing for the fences and be a little bit more aggressive to try to pull out a win, then I would say Caleb Williams is maybe the guy that you fire up over Burrow. If it's an even matchup or you feel strongly about your team's chances against your opponent, then maybe just go Burrow. Chase playing is a big development for Burrow. It's hard to have a whole lot of faith in him given the news, the dialogue, everything that we have received this week as far as information. But if he's out there, we're talking about a top 5 receiver in the NFL. So I feel a little bit better about Burrow. I'm not starting Justin Fields. Yes, he's enticing. But he's been knocked down a few pegs after this offseason, having gotten traded, and he's going to likely be the backup when Russell Wilson is healthy. On the road against the Falcons, I just don't feel as strongly about. Yes, obviously he has the highest rushing floor of these 3 options, but he's also got the lowest upside as a passer, as a thrower of the football. Fields has far and away the lowest upside from guys like Joe Burrow and Caleb Williams. So he's not in consideration for me in that conversation. I would say Burrow is your floor play and Williams is your ceiling play. Fields versus Atlanta or Dak against Cleveland. What's up, Will? These guys are neck and neck for me in the rankings today. They're both like just outside the top 15. Fields is a huge question mark. And Dak is just in a bad matchup. He's in a tough matchup on the road against the Browns. He's probably going to have to throw the ball a ton. And I would think not only does game script probably dictate that, but his new contract probably dictates that. DeAndre Hopkins officially listed healthy. Roshan Johnson is listed out. He was removed from the injury report, but now he's out. So it'll be DeAndre Swift and Khalil Herbert for the Bears backfield today. I will say Fields is the ceiling play, but he's also the all or nothing play. And Dak, I don't know that I would use safe as the word to describe Dak Prescott today on the road against the Browns, breaking in a few new offensive linemen. Some question marks at wide receiver. Brandon Cooks is old. Jalen Tolbert is unproven. Zeke is old. Rico Dowdle is unproven, for whatever that's worth. Obviously, CeeDee Lamb is a top 2 or 3 receiver in the NFL, so that's a great security blanket for him to have. And Jake Ferguson is a very good tight end. So the pieces are there. I would say Dak is the safe play, even though it's not a great matchup. Game script probably dictates that Dak will throw the ball a good amount today. What's the weather like in Cleveland? Any high winds to be worried about as it pertains to the passing game? I see 15-mile-per-hour winds. That's not anything to be concerned about. That's not anything to be worried about. It's not nothing. Cleveland's one of those weird, right, northeast-ish cities where the weather could impact the game at any given time. But, 15-mile-per-hour winds on a 70-degree day is not something to worry about. I would say Dak is your floor play, your safe play, and Fields is your upside play, but his floor is a lot lower. So I would say it depends on your matchup. Depends on how comfortable you feel about your own personal situation, your own personal matchup. Pickens or Palmer? I assume this is also still full PPR. I think I have to go George Pickens, even it's like a less than ideal situation. Palmer is in a better situation, but George Pickens is the better player. For at least week 1, I need to go with the better player. It's not a great matchup for George Pickens today, going up against A.J. Terrell and having to catch passes from Justin Fields. But he should command 12 targets today. He should command at least 10. I would say Pickens over Palmer, even though it's a less than ideal situation. I'm going to jump down to Crumply Heads because, again, I got to prioritize my members. Appreciate you guys. I will jump back up to the top of the chat when I am done here. You're out on Javonte. I think Javonte bounces back this year. I think he has a better season, because now he's completely removed from he's actually fully removed from the torn ACL. This was a season of, this was an offseason for him that was probably more normal than last year was, where it was primarily a rehab offseason. So I'm curious to see what happens with Javonte this year. I don't know that I would necessarily be out on him yet, although Jaleel McLaughlin is looming in that backfield to take some work. Ridley, Deontay, or Palmer full PPR. Again, Palmer's in a really good spot, conceivably as the X receiver for Justin Herbert. It's just a talent discrepancy thing. Like, Ridley and Deontay are both more talented players than Josh Palmer. So even in a great situation, I don't think I can fire up Palmer yet. It would be between Ridley and Deontay. In full PPR, I think I lean Ridley. I like Deontay. I like him to come through in full PPR, but it's a tougher matchup going up against Marshawn Lattimore. And that Panthers offense has some work to do as far as proving to us that they are better than they will be last year, which shouldn't be too hard because they were historically awful last year. So there isn't anywhere to go but up when you are historically awful. But how good are they? Whereas with the Titans, we expect this offense to throw the ball a lot. Will Levis, in limited opportunities last year, proves that he's a big fan of the YOLO ball. He loves chucking that thing deep. So let's see if he can connect with Ridley on a couple of big plays here and there. I would say Ridley. Crumply heads. I would say Ridley over Deontay and Palmer. Palmer probably has the best opportunity of these three guys. I just don't know how much I trust the Chargers offense until we actually see it. And of course, Palmer is catching passes from the best quarterback of this group. Justin Herbert is better than Will Levis and better than Bryce Young. Like, are they going to run the ball 40 times and just their like opportunities are going to be limited? Whereas the Titans went out of their way to sign Calvin Ridley this year, and we expect the Titans to be throwing the ball a lot this year. What's the implied total of that game? It's probably higher than the Chargers. Than the Chargers-Raiders implied total. The game total is set at 44.5 points. That's pretty good. Raiders-Chargers over-under is set to 40, so we're expecting a couple more points to be scored. Vegas is expecting a few more points to be scored in that Bears-Titans game, so I'll chase that. Give me Calvin Ridley. Give me Calvin Ridley, Crumply heads. In full PPR, I'll take Calvin. Okay, where am I at? I got the Caleb Williams question. I got the Pickens versus Palmer question. Purdy or Burrow? Burrow. Purdy should be fine at home with San Francisco having their full complement of their entire offense when you include Trent Williams because he's back in the fold. But it's a tough matchup against the Jets. And Burrow is just a better quarterback than Brock Purdy. So I'll bet on the talent. Purdy has his full complement of weapons. But Joe Burrow is just a multiple tier levels of talent better than Brock Purdy. With Jamar Chase being active, we are rolling the dice. We are taking a risk, but I would play Burrow. If Chase was out, then yes, I would probably say Purdy. I will roll the dice since Chase is officially active, even though it's definitely dicey. Let's see. Nemo's got Puka, Kupp, Terry McLaurin, Jerome Ford. We need 2 receivers and a flex. This is full PPR, Nemo? I mean, you have to start Puka. I think you have to start Kupp as well. It's between, I think you have to start your Rams. So it would be between Jerome Ford and Terry McLaurin. I'll say in full PPR, you fire up your receivers. I like Jerome Ford today. I do. He should command all of the work or most of the work in that backfield against the Cowboys. But Terry should command a 25 to 30% target share this year. It's a bunch of unproven guys after him in the pecking order. Diami Brown, Luke McCaffrey. They traded Jahan Dotson. Zach Ertz is 35 years old. They've got the rookie tight end. We'll see how he does. I mean, Terry McLaurin should command anywhere from a 25 to 30% target share this year. I think I'm going McLaurin over Jerome Ford in full PPR. If it was half PPR, if it was standard, I would say Ford. If it was half PPR, this would be a little bit of a tougher decision to make. I think because it's full PPR, Nemo, I'm just firing up your wide receivers. And they're on the road, right? Washington is. So game script dictates that they're going to have to throw the ball at some point, even though I assume they're going to want to run the ball a lot this year with Jaden Daniels, with Brian Robinson, with Austin Eckler. Austin Eckler, I guess, is the next most, he's the most proven guy overall, maybe as far as just like a pass catching option, but he's past his prime at this point. I mean, it's Terry McLaurin. Terry should command close to a 30% target share this year. I think he's just going to come through on volume in a big way. I would play your wide receivers, Nemo. And then Santos or Moody. What is the weather in Chicago? That's where that game is, right? Oh, it's a beautiful day in Chicago, Illinois. 65 degrees, just 10-mile-per-hour winds. The implied total for that game is 44.5. What is the implied total of 49ers Jets? The implied total of 49ers Jets on Monday night is 43.5. It's right there. Ugh. On one hand, you could argue the Bears should move the ball up and down the field with their shiny new franchise quarterback, Caleb Williams, throwing the ball to DJ Moore and Keenan Allen and Rome Odunze and Cole Kmet. So field position shouldn't be an issue for them, whereas the 49ers have one of the best overall collections of talent on offense in the NFL. Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle. Are the Jets, as a defense, able to make them stall out in the red zone and kick a couple extra field goals here and there? That's tough. I think I would give the slight nod. I think I would give the slight nod to Moody on Monday night. We know the 49ers offense can move the ball against pretty much anybody. The Jets defense is good enough. It's going to be tough for them on the road against the 49ers, but maybe the 49ers are a little rusty coming out of the gate. Trent Williams was holding out. Brandon Ayuk was holding in. So, like, maybe, they haven't been getting their normal complement of reps. Now, obviously, we're talking about, especially Trent Williams, some vets who absolutely, can roll out of bed and do their job at an elite level at this point in their career. Trent Williams probably doesn't need too many snaps to, get into some kind of rhythm, being one of, if not the best left tackle in football. But reps are still important. They still matter. So I'll say maybe Moody. Maybe we're rooting for the Jets to maybe stall out or help, force the 49ers to stall out on offense here and there and maybe force a couple extra field goal attempts. I'll give the slight nod to Moody, Nemo. What's the weather in San Francisco? Again, I always like to preach this. I'll preach this as many times as I need to throughout the course of the season. When it comes to kickers, unless your kicker is kicking in a dome, check the weather. Now, it's early in the season, so generally speaking, the weather is nice in most areas, but are there 25-mile-per-hour winds? Is there a random wind? Is there a random storm that is blowing 25-mile-per-hour winds into the stadium? That could be a concern for the kicker, so you always want to check that type of stuff. And I guess I shouldn't look up San Francisco weather. I should look up Santa Clara weather because that's where the stadium is. Monday night, we're not expecting anything heavy as far as winds. So clear conditions there. Yeah, I'll say Moody, Nemo. Slightly. I'll say Moody. He should be okay. 49ers are a good enough offense to move the ball. It's a good defense on the other side. You're ideally thinking maybe they get them to stall out a few times. What's going on, Iron? Good to see you, dude. It is great to be back. It is great to have football upon us in about an hour's time. Very exciting. I got to get myself to the bar. So I will take a few more questions, and then I can catch, if anybody comes in late, I can try to catch them if you catch this late and you have a question after I log off, just leave your question in the form of a comment on this stream, and I will try to get to it before kickoff. But right now, I have a question about, you have Chase, you also have Metcalf, you have Waddle, you have Ridley. See, this is what makes this situation so difficult, because Jamar Chase was your first round pick. He is the dude that you expect to be an anchor for you all season long. It's just week one. So obviously we all want to start off with a win, right? We all want to get off to a good start. We all want to start off 1-0. We want to kick our fantasy season off with a victory. But if something backfires, there's still so much time, plenty of time to course correct. I think with Jamar Chase active, you have no choice. You have no choice. He is risky, he is dicey, he is volatile, but it only takes one play for him to come through for you. If he catches a 20-yard touchdown, then he gives you his floor. He gives you his floor. I don't think you have a choice. I think you have to play Jamar Chase because he's active. I think you have to play Chase. He's your best player, even in limited opportunities. I think you have to roll the dice on him. I think you have to roll the dice on him. There's some good alternative options that you have, though. You have Waddle, you have Ridley, you have Metcalf. Oh, man. Metcalf will see Patrick Surtain today. Tough matchup, but they're at home. And Metcalf is obviously a big physical presence. Waddle, I love today. I think Waddle's primed for a big season, man. I think Jalen Waddle is primed for a big season. So I'm starting him definitively. I'm starting Jamar Chase. I'll say Metcalf simply because you probably drafted him over Calvin Ridley. And while they are both really good options for just week one, let's roll with the dudes that you drafted first. Let's roll with your foundational pieces. Ridley's a foundation piece as well. But when it comes to, do I start the guy I drafted in the third round, or or the fourth round, or do I start the guy that I drafted in the fifth or sixth round? For at least week one, I'm going with the dude that you drafted first. I assume Ridley is the guy that you drafted last of these guys, of these options. So I'll play Chase. Even though it's really dicey, he's active. I think you have no choice. You have to fire him up. I'm starting Waddle because I'm really bullish on him this year. And I'm starting Metcalf for the simple fact that you probably drafted him in the third or fourth round and you drafted Ridley in the fifth or sixth round. For at least week one, let's start the dudes that you drafted the highest as an equalizer. And then between the 49ers and the Bucks, I guess I would just go with San Francisco. You probably drafted them. You probably didn't draft Tampa. I'll go San Francisco. One of the best overall units in the league, going up against an Aaron Rodgers in his first game action since he tore his Achilles, and a questionable Jets offensive line. I would just go with San Francisco. I would just go with San Francisco. And I will get the tight end question, but I got to get to Iron first. Again, always, I got to get to my members first. That is a perk of being a member of the channel. Even at the lowest level membership, the 99-cent practice squad level membership, you will get your name shouted out, so you know I'm talking to you or responding to your question, and you will jump the line. That is a perk of being a member during the start sit streams this season. Iron needs 2 in full PPR between Keenan Allen, Christian Kirk, Brian Thomas, Keon Coleman, and Deontay Johnson. Keenan Allen is active today, which is big. That's important. In his first game as a Chicago Bear against the Tennessee Titans. Christian Kirk should be the primary receiver for Trevor Lawrence in what could be a shootout today. against the Miami Dolphins. I like Brian Thomas Jr. quite a bit for the season. I really do, but I don't think we can fire him up just yet. I think he is very much a wait and see. I would probably say the same about Keon Coleman. Deontay will be the Panthers wide receiver 1, but he's in a tough matchup today against Marshawn Lattimore. I think you start Christian Kirk, Iron. I think you start Kirk. He should be Lawrence's wide receiver 1, and it could be a shootout today against the Miami Dolphins. The Jags are going to have to keep pace with that high-flying Dolphins offense. I think I start Christian Kirk, and then my other wide receiver spot is between Deontay and Keenan Allen. Has Keenan Allen been in and out of practice this week? He was, I feel like, initially on the injury report. He's healthy. He's active. He's going today. But I thought I saw that he had previously been on the injury report. I'm taking a look. So, like, how much time has he missed? He's officially active. He was dealing with a heel injury. He had been listed as questionable. Logged a full practice on Friday. What we don't know is how many targets, is he going to get in this new Bears offense where he's probably not the wide receiver 1 anymore. That's DJ Moore. And then how much does Rome Odunze, their top 10 pick this year, factor in? I think, Iron, I would lean Deontay over Keenan Allen for just this week. Even though it's a tougher matchup against Marshawn Lattimore, he should be fine in full PPR. I'll say Kirk and I'll say Deontay Johnson. Phone doesn't want to charge. I really need to get an upgrade. I really need a new phone. But that's my problem, not y'all's. Yeah. So Iron, I would say Kirk and Deontay Johnson are your guys in full PPR. Fortune's got a question. If you have McLaurin, Waddle, and Nico, is it doable to keep Chase out? Damn. Oh, I like Terry McLaurin a lot this year. I really do. But I think you have no choice. I think you need to roll the dice and get Chase in there. I love Waddle this year, so he's in. And Nico is probably a guy you drafted in the 2nd or 3rd round, so I don't think you can sit him either. I think you have to sit Terry McLaurin, Fortune, even though I love Terry McLaurin this year. Probably commanding a 30% target share with so many unproven guys in Washington. But even in this limited availability that we're expecting from Jamar Chase with how murky his situation is, it's Jamar freaking Chase. He's active. I don't think we have a choice. I think you have to fire him up and hope for the best. Because all it takes with Jamar Chase is one play. I would take McLaurin out. I don't love doing that, but I think you have to take McLaurin out. I think you start Chase, you start Waddle, you start Nico. I'm also a big Brian Thomas guy, Iron. I got sniped in my redraft league by 2 picks trying to get him. I think Brian Thomas is poised to have a pretty strong year. I like Brian Thomas quite a bit. I think he's going to be a very strong ROI relative to expectation and relative to cost. I think he's going to deliver. I'm disappointed in my redraft league, in my keeper league, that I missed out on him by like just 2 picks. He was a slam dunk for me if he had fallen to me. But unfortunately, that wasn't how the cookie crumbled. But for week 1, I think we need to go with the proven guy in Christian Kirk. And then the last question I have here before I do have to shut it down is Cole Kmet or stream Johnny Munt. You might as well just go Cole Kmet, who I'm not crazy about today. I think he's losing a ton of opportunities now with Keenan Allen and Rome Odunze in the fold. Is Ty Conklin out there? Is Ty Conklin available on waivers? I think I like him a little bit more than both of those guys as the starter for the Jets, catching passes from Aaron Rodgers. Is Ty Conklin out there? I'd rather play him over Cole Kmet or Johnny Munt. Hell, I'd probably play Taysom Hill over those guys. I'd play Noah Fant over those guys. Revenge game for Noah Fant today against the Denver Broncos. And he has that tight end job all to himself. I would take Ty Conklin. I would take Taysom Hill. I would take Noah Fant. I would take like a Cade Otton. I would take all of those guys. I would take all of those guys over Cole Kmet or Johnny Munt. I would take Ty Conklin, Taysom Hill, Noah Fant, Cade Otton. I would stream any one of those names over Cole Kmet or Johnny Munt. Kmet is seeding a lot of work, a lot of opportunities. DJ Moore is already there from last year, but now they add Keenan Allen and Rome Odunze. I'm not crazy about Cole Kmet this year, just in general. I would pick up Ty Conklin. I would pick up Taysom Hill. I would pick up Cade Otton. I would pick up Noah Fant. I would play any of those dudes over Cole Kmet or Johnny Munt. All right. We have reached the end of the chat. Best of luck. Happy football. We are back. Everybody enjoy the day, however you're spending it. Have fun. Be safe. Enjoy all the festivities. Hope everything goes your way. Hope all of the results bounce your way. Enjoy the game. If you're catching me late, leave your question as a comment on this stream, and I will get to it. I will see you guys on Tuesday for waiver wire assistance, waiver wire help ahead of week 1. We will get into all of that, and then general AMA as always. Appreciate you guys. Best of luck. Enjoy week 1. The NFL's back, baby. Enjoy. Thanks, everybody.